thinking about the magnitude and the stature of us, our identity in God. I might have mentioned this, I'm not sure exactly which setting I mentioned it, but God, for some reason, through Jesus, couldn't tell us things that he wanted to tell us because we couldn't bear them yet. And Paul, when he was in the third heaven and saw with unveiled eyes the depth, the magnitude of the heavenlies, and I think of himself, of and of us as the saints. God, he said that he had been charged not to tell because it would be unlawful to tell of the wonders of what he saw. Why would that be? Because God wants to hide something from us? I think it was because of immaturity, or where we were on a maturity level. Jesus said, I had no place to rest my headship. But he certainly knows there's a time in Ephesians 4 when the body and the head will have full capacity. They will be commensurate with one another, equal to one another. And I believe that we're growing in things that probably the early church believers did not know. And if I could be so bold, if I could take Paul's statement in Ephesians 2 that the riches of grace may be made manifest in the ages to come, I feel like we probably know more about grace than Paul. Now, that doesn't give us any position for pride, not at all. What we're talking about, though, is the expectation then that it creates in us to receive the rhema that's commensurate with our maturity. In other words, he says, I think you're ready for this level. And then this level, and pretty soon he says, I'd like to give you the keys to the car. I feel like that you and I are just so huge in God's eyes. We must be. Think of it. We must be, because he thinks it not robbery to come down and live among us, so that he came down to be one of us so that we could become like him. Who would do that unless you really believe in what you're laying your life down for? And so the magnitude, the stature of our identity has got to just be staggering. And thankfully, I feel like that he's opening up new territories of Rhema for us to see our stature. Anyway, it does impact us deeply when we begin to see a little bit here and a little bit there. And God, you want to open up the heavens over here, and then wait a minute, you let me into the very rooms of your heart, and then wait a minute, I feel you putting a crown on me, and all of those facets begin to awaken sleeping and dormant identity and DNA. It's been dormant, but it's getting awakened in us. Well, I've been inspired, and it's hard for my mind to wrap around it, but in The Final Quest, Rick Joyner says, in that day, some will govern over galaxies and star systems. And, that's extra biblical writing. That's Rick Joyner. But then you go to the Bible, and Paul says in 1 Corinthians says, don't you know you will judge angels? You talk about expansion. So how about this phrase? This inspires me when I'm thinking of you being given two worlds, and several others of us have talked about the universe and different things today. Third chapter of the book of Jasher, Enoch, an angel comes to him and says, God has need of you because he wants you to come into the heavens to govern over the sons of God like you have governed over the sons of men. Wow. That just hits me so very deeply. That God is watching us. How are we governing? Are we governing well? He says, you know what? I'd like you to come govern over the sons of God. It's like, that just boggles our thinking. We think of ourselves as little mortals, prone to sin. And how could God? And God says, just watching how you're governing your heart and then how you're governing the world around you.